Alright, so today I have a pretty interesting story about something that a couple of my friends and I found in the forest one day. Something that could have actually been really dangerous or even deadly to us. And to give a little bit of background, there aren't any forests in the area where I live. But one weekend, a few of my friends and a couple of their parents were going to drive us up to a forest area to go camping for a couple of days. And if any of you have ever been camping, a lot of the times there will be like little areas set aside in forests for people to stay. You know, they'll have like little outhouses or maybe even a couple cabins or something. And I remember driving up, seeing areas like that, and then we just kept driving. But eventually we all stopped and got out. It had been like over an hour since I'd seen anything other than a tree. Like we were actually in the middle of nowhere, just to put into perspective how isolated this area was. And everything started out normal, you know. We set up our tents on one side, and a couple of their parents that drove up with us set up their tents in another area. And we were all around like 12 or 13, so pretty young, but still old enough to be mostly fine doing our own thing. And the rest of that day went by completely fine. But then the next day comes, and this is the day that the main part of the story takes place. So we were all just walking around, climbing trees, just finding weird bugs, just typical forest stuff, you know? And it was a group of, I think there was like 6 of us. And at one point we ended up splitting up, and 3 of us went off in a separate direction. And my one friend, let's just call him Joey, was like, we should go explore in this direction because we haven't been over there yet, and maybe we'll find something interesting. So we started walking, and we walked for quite a while, probably like 10 minutes, which walking for 10 minutes straight can kind of cover a lot of distance. And we weren't just aimlessly wandering, you know, we tried to walk in a straight line so we could easily just turn back around and walk in the opposite direction without getting lost. And we didn't really mean to walk out that far for that long, but we just kept not finding anything interesting, and none of us really realized how far out we were walking, and we just all kept going. Cause you know, if you're in a random forest, you're always hoping to find like some creepy cave or weird writing on the wall or something. Or some people might be excited to find other things. But eventually, it comes to my mind, like I just realized how long we have been walking for. And I'm like, guys, I know we haven't really found anything yet, like we were hoping to, but we should probably head back so we don't have any trouble finding our campsite. And plus it was starting to get dark out, and that would just be a whole nother problem to deal with. But Joey is like, nah, just a little bit further and then we can turn back. So I'm like, alright, fine, let's just go a little bit further. And not even 2 minutes later, our other friend that was with us, let's call him Christian, points out this gray colored object lying in a pile of dead leaves. So we walk over to it, and it was just like this long kind of cylinder shaped thing with some markings and writings on it. And I think all 3 of us thought the exact same thing as soon as we all saw it close up. And you'll see what I mean by that in a second. But Joey bends down and picks it up, and all along the outside it said stuff like warning and had a bunch of explosion and fire and detonation symbols on it. So I just say out loud what we were all kind of thinking, and I'm like, guys, is this a bomb or what? And then Christian is like, no way that's an actual bomb. And we obviously had no way of verifying if it was or wasn't, but it literally says stuff like warning and danger on the outside of it, as well as a bunch of other smaller writing that I didn't have time to read, and it had all types of suspicious looking symbols on it. Like the whole thing just looked suspicious. And at this point, we're all thinking like, what else could this even be? So we came to the conclusion that it was in fact some type of explosive, and at first I'm thinking this is a pretty random place to find an explosive, but we were in the mountains, and I know they use stuff like that to blow away pieces of mountains or dig tunnels for mines, but that's the only logical reason I can think of for that being there. But anyways, so we've now established that this is in fact some type of explosive, so you would think we would just be like, oh, let's leave it alone, not mess with it, and just get away. But no, they literally start like touching it and picking it up. They were acting like we found an interesting rock or something that was completely harmless. So Joey is literally just standing there holding this thing in his hand, just holding a straight up explosive, and he's like, what do we do with it? And you would think the obvious answer to that question would be to set it down and walk away. But then Christian kind of motions in the general direction of our campsite and is like, what if this thing blows up and takes us all out? And I go, how about we just put it down carefully and then get away from it? And I'm telling the story, you know, kind of calmly right now, but at the time, all 3 of us were all panicking. Me more than them for some reason, but I was freaking out. I remember my heart was literally like beating out my chest. I thought we were about to blow up. And then Joey is like, we have to bury it. And I'm like, what? How about no? And then he starts saying how he saw in some old detective movie how they buried a bomb in the ground to prevent it from hurting anyone. And then Christian agrees with him. He's like, yeah, we gotta bury it. And this is obviously a really stupid idea. Like, we're gonna dig a 2-foot hole, and then when it blows up, everything will be fine. but in our like 12-year-old minds, it made more sense than how it actually sounds. And I'm thinking, once again, like I'm about to die. Like we just found this weird explosive thing in the middle of the forest, and I was actually thinking I could die at any second now. So I told them I'm walking back to where everyone else is, and you should come with me. But the two of them said that they were going to stick around and bury it. So I'm like, alright, I'll see you guys back there in a bit then. And then I dip out of there. And I already know there's going to be some comment like, oh wow, what a pussy trying to run away from this thing. But just think about, what would you do if you were just like walking in a park or something one day and randomly came across a weird explosive bomb type of thing? You're running the opposite direction and calling the freaking bomb squad or something. Or if you're my two crazy friends, you'll pick it up and try to bury it. And I tried to get them to leave with me, but they said they wouldn't, so I just left by myself. And you remember earlier how I said we walked in a straight line out there, or at least tried to so we could walk back? Well, either our path on the way there wasn't straight, or mine on the way back wasn't, and I end up getting lost. I don't notice anything familiar from the way up. I'm wandering around thinking, where even am I? I'm not recognizing any unique landmarks. I literally started calling out to Joey and Christian, but there's no responses. And I'm like, well, if I don't die from that explosion, now I'm gonna die from getting lost in the wilderness. So for probably 10 more minutes, I'm just wandering around trying to find my way. And it's starting to get dark out now too. And then luckily, I guess I had just walked in a giant circle because I found myself right back in the area where we found the explosive in again. So I was below this little hill and I hear Joey call my name. I guess he noticed me or heard me, and I look up and they're both up there. And that's when I realized I had just walked in a giant circle basically. And they both run down to me and they're like, alright, we just buried it, so we're all good now. And I'm like, alright, let's try to get back to everyone else before it gets dark out. So the three of us find our way back, and when we told everybody else what we had found, nobody believed us. They're like, oh, it was probably just a weird rock or something. And I'm like, a weird rock? I guess if it's a weird rock that says warning and has explosive symbols on it, then sure. But yeah, nobody believed us. None of our friends, none of their parents. And to this day, it's probably still there, buried somewhere in a 1-foot hole. But yeah guys, that's all for this video. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, please leave a like on the video. And also let me know in the comments about any stories you guys have of finding anything weird or crazy in the forest. And thank you guys for 2,000 subscribers. I think I already said that in the last video, but thank you again because that's crazy. And I'll see you guys in a few weeks in the next one.